The crimson sky of Valen 4 matched the blood seeping through Commander Kallai's Drin's shattered armor. She had been fighting for 3 days straight, and the unrelenting Nexari forces had finally cornered her in this desolate valley. Kallai steadied her trembling hand, pressing her back against the twisted metal wreckage that served as her final cover. Her squad, 12 of the finest Assyrian warriors, lay scattered across the battlefield. She alone remained. "Assyrian command, this is Commander Drin," she rasped into her communicator. "Position compromised, requesting immediate extraction." Only static answered her call. The neural interface in her armor reported multiple system failures and critical biological damage. 2 broken ribs, punctured lung, severe lacerations across her dorsal plates. Her silver-blue blood crystallized around the wounds, nature's desperate attempt to keep her alive just a little longer. Kallai allowed herself a bitter smile, mandibles clicking softly in the Assyrian expression of resignation. It wasn't supposed to end like this, not on a forgotten moon at the edge of contested space. But a warrior's death was still a death with honor. She checked her plasma rifle, 3 shots remaining. The scanner showed at least 30 Nexari soldiers advancing on her position. Kallai had always believed herself destined for something more than this, but fate had other plans. "So be it," she whispered, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence, a silent prayer to ancestors she would soon join. The first Nexari scout appeared over the ridge. Kallai took aim, steadied her breath, and a deafening explosion rocked the hillside to her right. Not Nexari weapons, something different. Through the smoke and debris came a figure running with impossible speed, firing a weapon she didn't recognize, human-made by the looks of it. The figure slid behind her cover just as enemy fire peppered their position. Kallai found herself face to face with a human male, his armor unlike any alliance design she'd seen before. "Don't shoot," he said in rough but understandable galactic standard. "Lieutenant Elijah Frost, Earth Special Operations." He glanced at her wounds, his expression changing. "You're in bad shape, Commander." "How did you know your rank, the insignia on your armor?" He peered over their cover, unleashing another barrage that dropped 3 advancing Nexari. "Was in the sector when I picked up your distress signal. Couldn't just leave an ally to die." Kallai stared at him with confusion. Humans and Assyrians had a peace treaty, yes, but were hardly close allies. This human had no obligation to risk his life for her. "You should have kept moving," she said, wincing as she shifted position. "This position is lost." The human, Frost, checked his weapon and grinned. "No position is lost until everyone in it is dead, and I'm not planning on dying today." He pulled something from his pack and tossed it toward the advancing Nexari. The resulting explosion bought them precious seconds. "Why?" Kallai demanded, genuinely bewildered. Frost's eyes met hers, and something in his gaze, so alien yet somehow familiar, made her mandibles still. "Because where I come from, we don't leave soldiers behind, even ones with exoskeletons." He handed her a medical injector. "This will stabilize you, human medicine, but it's compatible with your physiology." As the medicine flowed into her system, dulling the pain, Kallai watched the human prepare for battle with methodical efficiency. "Rest, warrior," he said softly, checking his ammunition. "I'll fight with you. We're getting out of this valley together or not at all." For the first time in days, Kallai felt something other than resignation. This human, this stranger, had given her something she thought lost forever. "Hope." Commander Kallai watched in fascination as Lieutenant Frost moved unlike any warrior she had ever seen. Where Assyrian combat doctrine emphasized controlled aggression and positional advantage, the human fought with adaptive unpredictability that seemed to confuse the methodical Nexari forces. "They're regrouping on the eastern ridge," Kallai noted, her enhanced vision spotting movement through the smoke. The medicine Frost had given her had stabilized her condition, though pain still radiated through her exoskeleton with each movement. Frost nodded, not questioning her assessment. "Then we're heading west. Can you move?" "I can fight," she responded, mandibles clicking in determination. "Wasn't my question," he said, briefly meeting her gaze, "but I'll take it." What followed was a masterclass in tactical retreat. The human would lay covering fire, then signal her to advance to new cover while he lobbed strange devices that released disorienting pulses. When Kallai faltered, her injured leg nearly buckling, Frost was suddenly there, supporting her weight without comment. "Your combat approach is unorthodox," she observed during a brief respite behind the ruins of what had once been a communications array. Frost checked his ammunition, face glistening with sweat. "That's what keeps me alive. Nexari tactical computers predict conventional responses. I just avoid being conventional. They'll adapt to your patterns. That's why I keep changing them." He flashed her a quick smile. "Something I learned studying Assyrian battle philosophy, actually. In fluidity finds strength." Callice's secondary eyelids fluttered in surprise. "You've studied our military teachings. Know your allies as well as your enemies." He peered around their cover. "Two squads, flanking positions. We need to make it to that ravine before they close the gap." They moved as one, Callice providing precision shots that dropped the advancing scouts while Frost created chaos with his arsenal of unconventional weaponry. Despite their different physiologies and training, they fell into a rhythm that felt almost instinctive. 9 o'clock, Frost called out as a Nexari heavy gunner appeared. Without hesitation, Callice swung her rifle and fired her last plasma round, hitting the target squarely between its sensory clusters. The human immediately handed her one of his sidearms without a word. "Human weapon," she noted, examining the unfamiliar design. "Point and pull the trigger, it'll do the rest." As they reached the ravine, Callice found herself studying the human with growing curiosity. His species was considered impulsive and emotionally driven by Assyrian standards, tactical liabilities in warfare. Yet Frost's decisions, while unorthodox, showed a deeper strategic understanding than she had expected. "You fight well," she admitted as they navigated the narrow passage that would hopefully lead them to safer ground. "For a human." Frost glanced back at her, amusement visible even on his alien features. "And you adapt quickly, for an Assyrian." For the first time in many cycles, Callice felt her mandibles click in a pattern of amusement. The human's irreverence should have offended her military sensibilities, yet somehow it cut through the grim reality of their situation. As night fell on Valen 4, they continued their treacherous journey through enemy territory. The strange alliance, a wounded Assyrian commander and a lone human operative, moved like shadows across the war-torn landscape, each beginning to understand that survival might depend on more than just tactical superiority. It might depend on trust. The abandoned mining facility loomed before them, a hulking silhouette against the three moons of Valen 4. After 18 hours of continuous movement, evading Nexari patrols and navigating treacherous terrain, they had finally reached potential sanctuary. "Life support system still functional," Callice noted, her bioscanner detecting the faint energy signature. "Minimal but present." Frost nodded, securing the perimeter with practiced efficiency. "Good enough. You need proper medical attention, not just field stimulants." Once inside, the human sealed the blast doors and initiated a series of security protocols that impressed even Callice's military sensibilities. The facility, designed for deuterium extraction, offered several defensible rooms, and most critically, a medical bay equipped with basic supplies. "Your armor needs to come off," Frost said, examining the medical diagnostic unit. "Can you manage it?" Callice hesitated. For Assyrians, armor removal in the presence of others was reserved for medical emergencies or intimate encounters. While this qualified as the former, she felt an unexpected vulnerability at the prospect. "I require assistance," she admitted finally. "The neural interface connections at the dorsal junction are damaged." Frost approached with careful respect. "Guide me through it." His hands proved surprisingly gentle as they worked together to disengage the complex Assyrian battle armor. When the final piece separated, revealing the iridescent exoskeleton beneath, Callice caught a fleeting expression on the human's face, not disgust or clinical detachment, but something closer to appreciation. "Your natural armor is beautiful," he commented, then immediately focused on treating her wounds. "Sorry, that was unprofessional." "No," Callice replied, mandibles moving in a pattern conveying thoughtful consideration. "It was unexpected." With her injuries properly treated and stabilized, they established a watch rotation. During her rest period, Callice observed the human preparing rations, one compatible with her physiology. "You seem unusually knowledgeable about Assyrians," she noted. Frost paused, something unreadable crossing his features. I was stationed on the Assyrian colony world Terschminer for 2 years, cultural exchange program after the treaty. That explains your familiarity with our combat doctrine. And food preferences. He handed her a nutrient pack. Though I still don't understand how you can enjoy fermented krell roots. Their conversation flowed with surprising ease as the night deepened. Frost spoke of Earth, a world Calais knew only from tactical briefings and cultural data packets. His descriptions painted a different picture: diverse ecosystems, bewildering cultural variations, and a species whose greatest strength and weakness was their emotional intensity. "And you," he asked eventually, "what awaits Commander Calais Drin beyond this battlefield?" The question caught her off guard. Duty awaits, the next mission, the next battlefield. Nothing else. Calais's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture of contemplation. Assyrian warriors serve until final breath. Personal considerations are secondary. Sounds lonely, Frost said simply. The observation struck deeper than any Nexari weapon. Calais had never considered her path as lonely, merely honorable and necessary. Yet in this moment, sharing a temporary sanctuary with a being from another world, she recognized the emptiness that had long accompanied her duties. As if sensing her discomfort, Frost changed the subject. Yet throughout their night in the abandoned facility, his presence affected her in ways she couldn't rationalize. The physical proximity, the casual exchanges, the moments their hands accidentally touched while examining tactical displays. Each instance triggered unfamiliar responses in her neurochemistry. When dawn approached and Frost dozed briefly, Calais found herself studying his sleeping form with confused fascination. Humans were physically softer, yet this one had demonstrated remarkable resilience and adaptability. What would it be like, she wondered, to understand such a being completely? The thought should have alarmed her. Instead, it intrigued her. They had exactly 37 seconds of warning before the Nexari assault began. The facility's decrepit sensors detected the approaching dropships just moments before the first explosions rocked their sanctuary. "They found us," Frost announced unnecessarily, already moving with practiced precision to defensive positions. Calais, her wounds still healing but her combat capabilities mostly restored, clicked her mandibles in the Assyrian expression of grim determination. "Then we make them regret it." What followed was a symphony of coordination that defied their biological differences. Frost had reconfigured the facility's limited defensive systems, while Calais established optimal firing positions. They moved in tandem, anticipating each other's actions with uncanny precision. "North Corridor compromised," Calais called out as her scanner detected multiple signatures breaching the outer door. Frost immediately deployed one of his remaining pulse devices, the electromagnetic burst temporarily disabling the first wave of Nexari combat drones. "Reroute to position 3. I'll cover the withdrawal." In the chaotic hours that followed, they held their ground against overwhelming odds. The Nexari, clearly determined to eliminate them, deployed increasingly sophisticated attack patterns. Yet for each new threat, the human-Assyrian duo adapted. During a brief lull, as they reloaded weapons and recalibrated shields, Frost glanced at Calais with an expression she was learning to recognize as admiration. "You know," he said, wiping blood from a gash on his forehead, "under different circumstances, this might have been a hell of a first date." Calais tilted her head, translator struggling with the colloquialism. "Date? You mean a chronological marker?" The human's laughter, a sound she found increasingly appealing, echoed in their small defensive position. "No, I mean, never mind, cultural difference." Before she could pursue the meaning, proximity alarms blared. The next wave had arrived. They fought back to back, Calais's precision marksmanship complementing Frost's explosive creativity. When her shield generator failed, he immediately shifted to protect her flank. When he ran low on ammunition, she seamlessly shared her power cells. During one particularly intense exchange, a Nexari breacher nearly overwhelmed Frost's position. Without hesitation, Calais threw herself into the fray, her natural armor absorbing damage that would have killed the human instantly. The move left her exposed, but Frost was already there, eliminating the threat with ruthless efficiency. "That was reckless," he admonished, pulling her behind cover as he applied Medigel to her fresh wounds. Yes, she agreed, mandibles clicking rapidly, the Assyrian equivalent of breathlessness. I learned it from you. Something changed between them in that moment, a recognition that transcended their diplomatic alliance or tactical cooperation. The human's eyes, so alien in their singular color and round pupils, held hers with an intensity that triggered unfamiliar responses throughout her body. His hand lingered on her exoskeleton, warm against her cooler biology. Calais. The use of her personal name rather than her rank registered powerfully. In Assyrian culture, such familiarity was reserved for the most intimate of connections. The next barrage of enemy fire interrupted whatever might have followed, but something had fundamentally shifted. They fought now not just to survive, but to protect each other. When Calais moved, Frost was her shadow. When he advanced, she was his shield. As the siege reached its critical point, their communication became almost telepathic, brief glances and subtle gestures conveying complex tactical decisions. And underneath it all, a current of something Calais had never experienced in her centuries of warfare. The Nexari would eventually breach their position. That mathematical certainty remained unchanged. But in these moments of perfect synchronization with the human soldier, Calais discovered something unexpected. If this was to be her final battle, she no longer wished to face it alone. Dawn broke over Valen 4 as the unexpected silence extended into minutes, then hours. The Nexari assault had suddenly ceased, their forces withdrawing without explanation. Exhausted and battle-worn, Calais and Frost maintained defensive positions, suspicious of the apparent reprieve. Could be a tactical withdrawal, Frost suggested, scanning the horizon with enhanced optics. Or they're regrouping for a final push. Calais's biosensors detected something else. Aerial signatures approaching, not Nexari configuration. The distant thunder of engines grew steadily louder until the distinctive silhouettes of Assyrian combat dropships appeared against the crimson sky. Relief and something like disappointment warred within Calais's consciousness. Your people found us, Frost observed, lowering his weapon. A complex emotion flickered across his features, satisfaction tinged with something unidentifiable. The reunion with her military unit proceeded with typical Assyrian efficiency. Medical teams attended to their injuries, while intelligence officers debriefed them separately. Commander Vrex, Calais's superior, regarded the human with guarded appreciation. Lieutenant Frost's intervention was fortuitous, he acknowledged. The Alliance will recognize this cooperation appropriately. Calais found herself bristling at the clinical assessment. Without him, I would not stand before you. His actions transcended duty. Hours later, as the Assyrian battlecruiser prepared for departure, Calais sought out the human. She found him on the observation deck, staring at the desolate landscape of Valen 4. You have been cleared for transport to the human outpost in the Cygnus sector, she informed him formally. Frost turned, his expression unreadable to most, but Calais had learned to interpret the subtle nuances of his alien features. Back to business as usual, then. Is that what you desire? She asked, stepping closer than Assyrian military protocol would normally permit. Something shifted in his stance. What I desire and what's possible aren't always aligned, Commander. Calais, she corrected, her mandibles clicking in the pattern that signified intimate conversation. After shared battle, you have earned the right to my personal name. His smile, that strange human expression she had initially found disconcerting but now anticipated, appeared slowly. Elijah, then. The silence between them hummed with unspoken possibilities. Finally, Calais took an unprecedented step. Her exoskeletal hand, designed for warfare and survival, reached out to touch his face with deliberate gentleness. The neural pathways formed during intense shared experiences create connections that defy conventional categorization, she said, her normally precise language becoming uncharacteristically metaphorical. I find myself unwilling to sever this particular connection. Elijah's hand covered hers, warm against her cooler biology. That's possibly the most romantic thing an Assyrian has ever said to a human. I did not speak of romance, she clarified, though her secondary eyelids fluttered in the Assyrian sign of emotional intensity. I spoke of neural pathways. His laughter, that fascinating human sound, filled the space between them. Of course you did. What followed defied all Assyrian protocols and human expectations. Their bodies, evolved on worlds separated by countless light years, found unexpected points of communion. His skin against her exoskeleton, his warmth penetrating her natural armor, sensations neither had anticipated yet both explored with increasing wonder. Later, as Valen IV receded into the distance, Commander Kalai's Drin made an unprecedented request for reassignment to joint Assyrian-human operations. Lieutenant Elijah Frost, likewise, submitted formal application to extend his service at the diplomatic interface between their species. Whether the bureaucracies of their respective military hierarchies would accommodate such unusual requests remained uncertain. What had become absolutely clear, however, was that two warriors who had expected to die alone on a forgotten battlefield had discovered something neither had been seeking. As Calais explained to a bewildered Commander Vrex, in combat, we seek advantage through superior position. I have simply identified the optimal position for future operations. That this position happened to be alongside a specific human soldier, she noted privately, was a tactical detail she chose to emphasize only to Elijah himself.